The Interstellar Exchange Program prided itself on mixing cadets from across the galaxy into shared squads, forcing them to train together, fight together, and, if all went well, learn together. To some, it was an experiment. With others, it was the foundation of peace. To Elias Ward, one of the few humans in this year's class, it was a test of patience. Not because he disliked the aliens, but because everything was a negotiation of cultures. A handshake meant nothing to a glory, whose tentacles recoiled at touch. Eye contact was dominance to a Krell, yet respect to a Varen. And don't even get him started on the dining hall food. Still, he adapted. That was what humans did best. On this particular day, the training module had paired him with Zyra, a Zyran cadet. Her species was lithe, feline in movement, with tufted ears that twitched at sounds and eyes that gleamed like molten gold. She was fast, strong, and had a streak of mischief that both infuriated and entertained Elias. "Ready, human?" Purred, crouching low in the sparring circle. "Always," Elias said, rolling his shoulders. He had learned not to underestimate her. She fought like water, flowing around every strike. The bout began. Their fists and claws darted, blocked, and redirected. Elias ducked under a swipe, countered with a jab, then sidestepped as Zyra leaped past him. She was smiling, or at least baring teeth in what he hoped was amusement. The crowd of other cadets cheered. The human versus Zyran matches had become a favorite spectacle. Elias's stubborn resilience against Zyra's speed created bouts that could last far longer than most pairings. Then it happened. In the middle of a grapple, Elias caught Zyra's wrist and tried to pin her. She twisted, slipped free, and, in a burst of playful energy, darted forward and nipped his shoulder with her teeth. Not a deep bite, not even breaking skin, just a quick, mischievous nip, the way one might elbow a friend during a joke. Ouch. Elias yelped, stumbling back. Instinctively, his hand flew to the spot. His face twisted with a flash of confusion and alarm. The hall went quiet for a second before erupting into whispers and laughter. Zyra blinked, head tilting, ears flicking in confusion. "Did I hurt you?" she asked, voice genuinely puzzled. Elias looked at her as though she had just licked a live wire. "You bit me." She blinked again. "Of course, it was Jest." "Jest," Elias repeated, incredulous. "Where I come from, that's not a joke." He stopped himself, realizing the entire hall was staring at them. His face reddened. "That's different for us." Zyra's tail flicked in agitation, but her tone stayed firm. "Among my people, a playful bite is camaraderie. It means respect, acceptance. We bite our siblings, our friends, our packmates. It is laughter made flesh." Elias rubbed the back of his neck, trying to calm his racing instincts. "Yeah, well, among my people, a bite usually means danger or something else." His voice trailed off, unwilling to explain the other contexts a bite could mean to humans. The cadets began murmuring louder. Some laughed outright, others exchanged knowing looks, and a few looked troubled. For them, this was more than a misunderstanding. It was a moment that showed just how alien humans really were. Zyra stood straighter, ears flattening with something like frustration. "So, my gesture of trust offended you," Elias sighed. "Not offended, just startled. My instincts didn't get the memo that it was supposed to be funny." The instructors watching from above whispered among themselves, making notes. This was exactly the kind of cultural clash the program was designed to uncover. Every species carried unspoken rules, but humans had instincts so deeply carved into them by survival that even a playful nip could set their nerves alight. For Elias, the moment was both embarrassing and enlightening. He hadn't realized how quickly his body reacted to what, in his mind, had always been primal danger: teeth against skin. For Zyra, it was bewildering. She had offered something friendly, and instead of laughter, she had received recoil. The alien girl bit the human. Someone whispered in the dining hall. "She marked him," another added with a grin. "Marked him? What?" a third voice asked. "Depends who you ask." Soon, every corner of the station buzzed with speculation. Some species thought it was hilarious proof that humans were as sensitive as the rumors suggested. Others, especially those who had seen Elias's startled reaction, found themselves wondering, what do bites mean to humans? Why did he look like he'd been challenged or worse, courted? For Elias, the attention was exhausting. He couldn't walk through a corridor without hearing snickers behind him. His fellow Terran cadets were the worst offenders, tossing remarks. His way with no mercy? Careful. Ward heard, she's got sharp teeth. Better keep your rabies shots up to date. Don't worry, Elias. First they bite, then they scratch behind the ears. It's practically a date, isn't it? Even his squad leader chimed in, though with more tact. Son, I'd suggest brushing up on Zyran culture before your next match. We don't need another diplomatic incident over teeth. Elias laughed along with the jabs when he could, but the truth gnawed at him. It hadn't just been embarrassment, it was instinct. Something deep in his bones had recoiled when Zyra's teeth grazed his skin. His ancestors had survived predators by reacting instantly to that sensation. To dismiss it as just a joke felt wrong, even dangerous. Zyra, on the other hand, found herself equally bewildered, but for the opposite reason. Among her people, nipping was harmless fun, a mark of inclusion. She had meant to show Elias that he wasn't just a training partner, but someone she considered worthy of trust. Instead, he had flinched away. Worse, she noticed how he moved differently around her now. Not obviously he still sparred, still joked, but there was hesitation, a guardedness that hadn't been there before. Leaned too close, and his posture stiffened when her tail brushed against him accidentally. To Zyra, this was infuriating. She had offered him a gesture of friendship, and he had met it with distance. Finally, one evening in the training hall, she confronted him. The room was quiet, only a handful of cadets running drills on the far side. She cornered Elias after their spar, her ears angled back in determination. "Why do you recoil from me?" she demanded, tail lashing behind her. Elias blinked, caught off guard. Recoil? Yes. Her golden eyes narrowed. You think I would harm you? You flinch as though my presence is dangerous. Do you not trust me? Elias set his training stick down, running a hand over his face. He had dreaded this conversation, but there was no avoiding it. It's not about trust, Zyra. It's complicated. Explain. Her voice was sharp, but beneath it, he heard the note of genuine hurt. He sighed. Where I come from, teeth against skin, it's not a joke. It's primal. To us, a bite usually means one of two things: violence or intimacy, neither of which I expected in the middle of training. Zyra froze, ears flicking. She opened her mouth, closed it, then gave a low growl of frustration. You mean to say my play was taken as either threat or mating? Elias winced. Pretty much, yeah. For a long moment they stared at each other, the silence thick with tension. I meant neither, she said finally, her tone softer, but no less firm. Among my people, it is laughter. It is belonging. I gave you that, and you turned away. I didn't mean to, Elias admitted quietly. It's just, sometimes instincts get there before reason does. I couldn't help it. Her tail slowed, curling around her leg as she processed his words. To Zyra, the idea that a body could betray the mind was foreign. Zyrans acted on instinct proudly, without shame. To hear a human describe his instincts as something he chose to resist was unsettling, and strangely admirable. Unbeknownst to them, two instructors monitoring the session through the observation deck had been recording everything. The exchange program was designed for exactly this, uncovering the hidden cultural rifts that could one day lead to disaster or to understanding. The bite had been small, almost laughable, but the ripples it caused were proving invaluable. Humanity's instincts were once again revealing themselves to be unlike any other species, and that made them unpredictable. As Zyra walked away that evening, her mind churned. She had meant to strengthen their bond, but instead she had stumbled into a mystery. Why did humans treat such simple gestures with such weight? The bite might have been small, but its consequences had grown far beyond Elias or Zyra. Within a week, rumors had crossed species lines and even reached the station's officers. The interstellar exchange program had been created to prevent cultural misunderstandings from sparking interstellar conflicts. That was the official reason. The unofficial one? Every admiral and counselor wanted to know exactly what made humans tick. They were new to the galactic stage, but already infamous for their stubbornness, their tenacity, their unpredictability. And now, a single bite had revealed something tantalizing. Humans reacted to touch and instinct in ways no other species did. So, Elias Ward was summoned not to the commander's office, but to the main lecture hall. He arrived to find not a dozen cadets, as he expected, but a packed room. Rows of alien faces stared at him, insectoid, reptilian, furred, feathered. Some whispered to one another, others simply stared with rapt curiosity. Even Zyra sat near the front, arms crossed, golden eyes, plink, at the podium instructor. Thale, a tall, crystalline being whose body glimmered with refracted light, addressed him. "Cadet Ward," Thale said in their resonant, chiming voice, "it has been requested that you clarify your species. Reaction to certain forms of physical contact for the benefit of your peers." Elias blinked. "Do you mean because of—" He gestured vaguely at Zyra. "Yes," Thale said flatly. The hall erupted in quiet chuckles. Elias sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "Right. The bite heard round the station. Guess I'll explain." He stepped forward, placing both hands on the podium. His heart thumped, but there was no escaping it now. Humans are strange creatures, I'll admit. That we don't just feel things, we interpret them. We attach meaning, instinct, and history to every gesture. He paced slowly, glancing at the cadets. "Take a handshake. For us, it's not just two hands touching, it's a sign of trust. It says, 'I come unarmed.' Now, biting." He paused, hearing a few snickers ripple through the crowd. Biting is complicated. In our history, it usually meant violence. Predators biting prey, enemies biting when desperate. Our instincts learn to react fast to teeth on skin, fight, flee, or protect. Even today, we can't shut that down completely. It's hardwired. Zyra tilted her head, ears flicking with interest. Elias noticed, but pressed on. "But that's not all. Biting can also mean intimacy." He cleared his throat, trying to keep his voice steady. Close bonds, passion, love. In that context, a playful bite isn't aggression, it's affection. But it's reserved, personal. Definitely not something you expect in a sparring ring. The hall stirred with whispers. To some species, the idea that a gesture could carry opposite meanings depending on context was baffling. To others, it made humans seem even more unpredictable. Zira raised her hand. "Then when I bit you, your instincts thought I was either attacking or courting you." A wave of laughter rolled through the hall. Elias flushed crimson but forced a wry smile. "Yeah, that about sums it up." Even Zyra allowed herself a small, toothy grin. "But here's the important part," Elias said, raising his voice slightly. "Humans feel those instincts. Yes, they hit us hard and fast. But we don't have to obey them. We can choose. When Zira bit me, my gut screamed at danger. Another part of me wondered if she was flirting, but I didn't lash out. I didn't misinterpret it further. I stopped. I thought. I chose." The room quieted. That last word, "chose," hung heavy in the air. That, Elias continued, is humanity's strength. Our instincts are like fire, powerful, dangerous, but controllable. We don't just act. We decide what our actions mean. Silence stretched across the hall, broken only by the faint hum of the station's ventilation. Even the instructors seemed still, their crystalline bodies refracting dimly. Then Zyra's voice cut through. "Strange creatures indeed, my people. Embrace instinct as truth. You treat it as suggestion." Elias met her gaze. "And maybe that's why we survive in places no one else dares to, because we can feel the fear, the rage, the hunger. Still decide what comes next." Audience erupted in murmurs, some impressed, some unsettled. What had started as a misunderstanding had turned into a revelation. Humanity was not just another predator species. They were something different. Something dangerous. The lecture hall incident had shifted the air around Elias and Zira. What began as a misunderstanding had grown into a station-wide lesson. And though most cadets treated it as just another cultural curiosity for the two directly involved, it lingered far more personally. Zira found herself replaying Ilias's words in her mind. "We can choose." The statement gnawed at her. Zirans were creatures of instinct. They lived by it, trusted it, reveled in it. Hunger meant eat, anger meant strike, playfulness meant bite. To resist instinct was to deny oneself. Yet Elias had stood before an entire hall and declared proudly that humans resisted all the time, and not out of weakness, but out of strength. That puzzled her more than she cared to admit. For Elias, the aftermath was equally strange. He had exposed a piece of humanity to the galaxy that was both embarrassing and profound. Every corridor walk brought nods from cadets, who once laughed at him, but now looked with something bordering on respect or caution. It was as if they'd glimpsed that humans carried a storm inside them, leashed by choice. But the hardest part wasn't the stairs. It was Zira herself. Their sparring resumed a few days later, but things felt different. Zira no longer bounded as recklessly close, nor did her teeth ever flash near his skin. Instead, she teased him with feints and tail swipes, darting in and out of reach, her golden eyes watching carefully for his reactions. "You've gone soft," Elias remarked during one of their bouts. Dodging her strike and countering with a sweep that barely missed, Zira hissed playfully. "No, human, I've gone considerate," he smirked. But beneath it, he felt the weight of her words. She had changed for him, for his comfort. That realization struck him harder than any blow. After the match, she lingered as the hall emptied. Her tail curled low, ears half tilted. "I did not mean to shame you," she said suddenly, breaking the silence. Elias blinked, caught off guard. "You didn't shame me, Zira." Eyes narrowed slightly. "You recoiled. You were unsettled. My play wounded you." He exhaled slowly, choosing his words. "It wasn't shame. Just instinct. My body reacted before my mind could catch up. That doesn't mean I think less of you." Her tail twitched, thoughtful, strange. "My people celebrate instinct, yours. Wrestle with it. Maybe that's why we're still alive," Elias said with a faint smile. "Earth isn't kind. We had to learn when to follow instinct and when to ignore it." She studied him for a long moment, her head tilted. Then almost softly she said, "You are not as simple as you look, human." He chuckled. I think, over the following weeks, the two of them grew closer in subtle ways. They still sparred, but now there was an undercurrent of understanding. Zira teased less with her teeth and more with her speed, finding new ways to provoke Elias without triggering his instincts. Elias, in turn, learned to read her body language better, the swish of her tail, the angle of her ears, the shift. In her stance, what once felt alien began to make sense. One evening, after a grueling training session, sat side by side on the benches, sweat damp and breathing hard. The hall was quiet, shadows stretching long across the floor. "You know," Leah said between breaths, "back home people joke that humans can befriend anything. Wolves, lions, even creatures that should have killed us. Maybe that's what we're doing here, figuring out how to be friends across instincts." Zira's ears flicked, a purr rumbling low in her throat. "Or maybe," she countered, "it is I who am learning to befriend a predator." Their eyes met, and for a moment, neither laughed. It wasn't a jest, nor a challenge. It was truth simple and unspoken. The bond forming between them was not one of convenience or curiosity anymore. It was respect. And respect in both human and Zyran cull. The station's medical bay had never been so quiet. The hum of sterilizers, the faint hiss of pressure doors, and the soft beeping of monitors all seemed muted, as if the very walls knew something delicate was unfolding. Eli sat on the edge of the exam bed, arm bandaged neatly, though the puncture wounds from Zar's bite had already been cleaned and treated. The sting was minor now. What lingered wasn't the pain, but the meaning. Zara stood across from him, her posture a mixture of rigid defensiveness and fragile uncertainty. For once, the fiery confidence that usually burned in her alien eyes had dimmed. She had replayed the incident in her mind 100 times since. To her, biting had been playful and instinctual way. Her people expressed camaraderie, a physical gesture of teasing closeness. But after Eli's reaction, after the sudden swell of fear and the realization that humans took physical gestures far differently, shame had crept in. Eli, her voice trembled slightly, though her alien accent gave it a melodic edge, did not mean to cause you harm. It was only... She paused, searching for the word in the tangled weave of galactic common. It was just play. Eli studied her carefully, noticing how her hands twisted in front of her claws, lightly scraping against her own palms. A sign he had learned meant nervousness. He let out a slow breath, choosing his words with care. I know, Zara, you didn't mean it as an attack, but humans take biting very differently. Her gaze flickered up, confusion knitting her brow. Differently. Ow. That was the difficult part. How could he explain that what she thought of as friendly roughhousing was, in human culture, almost intimate, bordering on flirtatious, sometimes even romantic? He rubbed the back of his neck, feeling awkward. To us, biting isn't just play. It's something that happens in moments of closeness, between people who mean more to each other than just friends. Zara's ears twitched, her species version of a blush spreading faintly across her cheek scales. Her voice came out softer, almost incredulous. You mean, I marked you as if you were chosen? Eli's heartbeat quickened. I hadn't thought of it that way, but her words carried an alien precision. He nodded. In a way, yeah. Silence stretched between them, heavy with realization. The alien girl who had once mocked humanity's fragility now stared at him as though she had accidentally confessed a secret she hadn't known she held. In biting him, she had crossed a cultural line she hadn't understood existed. And yet, the more she thought about it, the less she regretted it. Zara stepped closer, her movement slow, deliberate. Species was not known for hesitation. But in this moment, she moved like one stepping across a chasm on fragile glass. Then, perhaps I should not apologize, she said, her tone firming as her confidence flickered back. Eli blinked, startled. Not apologize? No. Her alien eyes locked onto his. Because if it marks you as close, if it means something deeper to humans, then it speaks truth. You are closer to me than the others. You are. She faltered again, the word foreign on her tongue. Important. The simplicity of her declaration hit Eli harder than any pain the bite had caused. He realized in that instant that this wasn't just a misunderstanding, it was a bridge. A cultural collision that had revealed something raw, unspoken, but undeniably real. Eli stood, closing the space between them. For a moment, they just stared at each other, the unspoken tension finally given form. He chuckled lightly, breaking the heaviness with warmth. Well, Zara, guess that makes us more than just crewmates now. Her lips curled into something between a smirk and a shy smile. Yes, marked, as humans say yours. The weight of her words lingered long after. The bite, once a source of confusion and discomfort, had become a symbol proof that two entirely different beings could misunderstand each other so profoundly, yet still find meaning in the middle of it. When the others on the station noticed the bandages and asked questions, Eli and Zara only exchanged a look and a knowing smile. To them, the story didn't need retelling. It was theirs, born of jest, shaped by misunderstanding and sealed by something far stronger than either had expected.